Well, welcome back to our final segment here today on CityLine. And joining me now from Dukesbay Productions is Aya Clark and Randy Clark. Welcome to the comfy couch.
Thank you.
So first of all, Aya, this is the first time as our guest on CityLine, and October is Tacoma Arts Month. In 2019, you were the recipient of an AMOCAT Award for Tacoma Community Outreach by an individual. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So tell us, what is Dukesbay Productions?
Dukesbay Productions. We are a two-person operation, husband and wife operation. We are a small, independent live theater company. Wow. And we put on 2 shows a year. We don't do that much more because we're both retired and we're old. We're old. We don't want to be that busy.
And brutally honest.
Yes.
Well, Randy, let's back up just a minute. How did you come up with the name Dukesbay?
Well, it was about 30 years ago I owned a dog named Duke, and I lived over in a little community called Rosedale, which is outside of Gig Harbor, and I lived on a small bay, and the bay didn't have a name, and if you look on the charts, there's no name. It was right off of Ray Nash Drive, and Duke would spend all day long in the bay looking at things. I called him a marine biologist because he was taking data, collecting data the whole time. And anyway, I was talking to a friend about it and said, we live on this bay and it doesn't have a name. And he said, well, why don't you name it? And then he looked out and he saw Duke and he said, well, why don't you call it Dukesbay? And ever since, it has nothing to do with the theater or anything else, but I just love the name. So there we are. We just kept it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's all it is. It's
Well, I was waiting and you nailed it. It was great. So tell me about the difference. Why are you unique from all other theaters in Tacoma?
Well, our mission at Dukesbay is that we want to put on plays that reflect, or at least attempt to reflect, the ethnic diversity here in Tacoma. And so every play we put on, there's at least one or more persons of color on stage. So sometimes we put on a play that's very specific to an ethnic group, whereas, for instance, we just recently told a story about a Japanese family. Other times we'll just put on a so-called mainstream production, but we will purposely cast people of color within the cast.
Okay, very nice. Celebrating diversity in our world.
Yes.
Very good. So, Randy, as I walk, I'm going to close my eyes. I walk into Dukesbay Theater. Well, I got to open my eyes to read the question, but describe what I'm going to see as I walk in the door to Dukesbay Theater.
Well, first off, you're going to see that it's tiny. It's only 40 seats. But the point of it being that then you're in the room, meaning whatever's going on, you're not back in an audience with it going on up there. You are there. You're with it. You have the best seat in the house because everybody has a good seat. Perfect example is we just did a show called Proof, where it took place in somebody's backyard, and we were in the backyard with them. So a lot of times shows nowadays don't have a single set because of the way they're written. You use a lot of different composites and they're going up and down with lights. Where a show like Proof is a single set, and we were there. You're in the backyard with them. So, but basically, you're in the room. That's the way I like to put it.
Nice.
If we were doing the show here, the audience would be right here.
Yeah.
In the room with us.
Up close and personal.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. And I think you said too in our conversation prior to coming into the studio that it's row 1 or row 2. So when you think about all other theaters, I mean, row 23, seat 47. Whatever. It's like, okay, but no, this is great. So tell us about the purpose and mission in the building space, in the building of this space.
Well, for quite a while, I had it in the back of my mind to create my own theater, to be a place where I'd be the guy, be the producer, be in charge of what was happening, to do it. And and then we got married, and it seemed to be what we both wanted to do. And then we were able to match it with the mission of diversity and trying to be as inclusive as possible. And so that's what we're doing, is to try to produce as good a theater as we can, but with that being the caveat.
So a shared passion.
Yes, yeah.
Very good. Okay. So tell us where the theater is located and describe the surroundings of the building.
Well, we're in the Merlino building, which is on 6th and Fawcett. The big deal is it's where the Grand Cinema is. That's the landmark for where we are. And then we're up on the 3rd floor. We're above the ballet. So you don't go in the same side where the Grand Cinema is. You walk around the corner and go up the stairs. That's where we are.
Okay, very good. All righty. You're producing an original comedy called Java Tacoma, Episode 8. Tell us the background and history of this comedy series.
Well, about 20 some odd years ago, there was a group of Asian American theater artists in Seattle that produced their own episodic comic sitcom soap opera. They called it Sex in Seattle. And it was the sort of the comic romantic adventures of 3 young Asian American ladies. And it was a hit. And I thought, we can do something like this in Tacoma. People like the fact that something's locally written, has plenty of local references within the dialogue and the plot. And so instead of having 3 young Asian American ladies as the leads, we produce Java Tacoma, which has 3 middle-aged ladies as the leads, because so many times in theater, middle-aged people are only playing somebody's mother or grandmother. But here they get to be the leads. All these silly misadventures all center around them. And so we are on episode 8, and we've been performing this since 2011.
And I must say, Aya wrote it. We've got to push her. She's the playwright.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, congrats. That's
Thank you.
awesome. Now, we took a we took a picture of your photo there, or showed your poster there. How do people get tickets?
Well, they're mostly purchased online. We have a website on Eventbrite. If that's hard to remember, just go to Dukesbay.org, and there is a link to the tickets on our website
And
as well.
Dukesbay is one word. It's not 2.
Okay.
One word, Dukesbay. Yeah.
Very good. We'll get that straightened out. So, Randy, what's next for Dukesbay?
Well, after Java, we are going to be in the spring. We're putting on a production of Jeffrey Hatcher's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's different than most other Jekyll and Hydes in the aspect that there's 1 actor playing Dr. Jekyll, but 4 actors will be playing Mr. Hyde, including a woman. And so it's very dynamic, and it's a very interesting show. I'm really looking forward to producing it. And then in the fall, we're producing a new work. It's being written now by Roger Iverson, as a playwright here in town. And it's all about, it's the Andalama. Now, the Andalama was, in 1899, sunk out in Commencement Bay. It was a ship, a 5-masted bark that sunk out there. It was the greatest maritime disaster in Tacoma's history. Overnight, the Andalama just disappeared in a mid-evening storm with all hands. So we're writing a Halloween horror story about it. It's not just Halloween horror story, it's about just what happened. But it contains a curse and a few other things. And
Wow.
yeah, no, it should be a lot of fun. And it also, it's a bit about Tacoma history. So it's got a little bit in there. So
Nice.
yeah.
Now, I have to ask, you said episode 8
Yes.
of Java Tacoma. What happened in the first 7 episodes?
It's just about the same thing that happens now.
It's like I say, we call it a sitcom for the stage.
Yeah.
So each episode is sort of a complete story in and of itself, but then it has a lot of the same recurring characters like a TV show would. So episodes 1 through 7 each just had something silly happen.
Well, they're based also on Shakespeare. That's the reason
Yes,
why this,
and all the episodes that I have written have been loosely inspired by a Shakespearean tragedy, although there's nothing tragic about this story. And so this particular episode has some elements from Hamlet in it.
Right,
But
it's called To Bean or Not to Bean.
yeah, but you don't have to know anything about episodes 1 through 7, and you don't have to know anything about Shakespeare or Hamlet to enjoy this show, because everything actually is explained to you quite a bit.
Nice.
Yes.
Now you have a small theater, so is it multiple day run?
Yes, we run for 3 weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, from October 14th through the 30th.
Their Friday and Saturday night performances at 7:30. The Sunday's a matinee at 2.
Very good. And they can get tickets again
by logging on to eventbrite.com or by logging on to our website, dukesbay.org.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, we've run out of time, but
Okay.
I wish you well in this episode 8 of Java Tacoma at the Dukesbay Theater. And thank you again, Randy and Aya Clark, for joining us today here on CityLine.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, it's our pleasure.
Thanks again. We hope that Amanda Westbrook is doing well. And as always, we ask you to step out there, pay it forward, and join us again next week on CityLine. Take care, everybody.
From the pines to the dawn, Tacoma, that's my home, yeah. Tacoma, that's my home. Tacoma, that's my home. Place I call my own. Tacoma, that's my home, yeah. Tacoma, that's my home. All right, you're from the East Coast. All right, you're from the West. All right, you're from the middle, but Tacoma's still the best. Alright, you're from the East Coast. Alright, you're from the West. Alright, you're from the middle, but Tacoma's still the best. Hey, Tacoma, that's my home. From the pines to the dawn. Tacoma, that's my home. Yeah, Tacoma, that's my home. Tacoma, that's my home. Place I call my own. Tacoma, that's my home. Yeah, Tacoma, that's my home. Tacoma, that's my home. From the pines to the dawn. Tacoma, that's my home. Yeah, Tacoma, that's my home. Tacoma, that's my home. Place I come.